So, when I say the words Middle Ages, what pops into your head? Let's be honest, for a lot of us, it's this idea of 1,000 years of, well, mud, misery, and cultural darkness. We literally call it the Dark Ages. But what if that whole picture is just wrong? What if this era, far from being dark, was actually bursting with color, complexity, and some of the most breathtaking art you've ever seen? Let's take a closer look, shall we?
I mean, just look at this. This is a page from a book called the Lindisfarne Gospels, made way back around the year 715. It's this incredible, dizzying web of spiral patterns and animals all woven together with mathematical precision. This isn't crude. It's not primitive. This is the work of an absolute master, created in an age we've all been taught to just dismiss.
And that's really the big question, isn't it? When you see something like this, it forces you to rethink everything you thought you knew. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use this incredible book to unlock the world of medieval art. Who were the people who made these things? Why on earth did they do it? And what can it teach us about seeing the world through their eyes?
Okay, so first things first. We really need to wrap our heads around what a monumental achievement this book actually was. Let's just zoom in on the sheer, mind-boggling effort that went into creating it.
Think about this for a second. On a single page, just one, art historians have counted over 10,600 tiny red dots, all put there by hand. Can you even imagine the focus, the steady hand, the unwavering patience that would take? This wasn't just decoration, this was an act of pure devotion that must have taken years to complete.
And get this, it was all done by one guy, a monk named Eadfrith, living on a tiny windswept island off the coast of northern England. And, he wasn't just popping down to the local art supply store. He was making his own colors from ground-up rocks and plants. Some of the pigments, like this brilliant blue, were actually imported all the way from the Mediterranean. That's a huge deal, connecting this little remote island to a vast global trade network.
So we know the artist was a monk named Eadfrith. Case closed, right? Well, not so fast. The medieval world had a much broader and, frankly, a much more interesting idea of who actually makes art.
Oh, for sure. Eadfrith was the artist in the way we'd think of it today. His hands formed every letter, his vision guided the pen that placed every single one of those 10,600 dots. He is credited as the scribe and the painter, no doubt about it.
But let's ask a slightly different question. Could he really have done it all by himself? I mean, a project like this needed vellum from about 150 calfskins, plus all those rare, expensive pigments. Could it have even gotten off the ground without some serious resources behind it?
And this brings us to this really key medieval concept, all wrapped up in one Latin word, fake it. It just means made. But when this word showed up on a work of art, it could mean the artist who physically created it, or it could just as easily mean the patron, the person who paid for it. In their worldview, enabling the art, funding it, was a form of making it.
This stained glass window shows the idea perfectly. You see this woman, the donor, and she's holding up a little model of the very window she commissioned. She's being proudly shown as a co-creator, a maker. This totally reframes our modern understanding. It shows that patrons, and a lot of them were powerful women, weren't just writing a check. They were seen as essential partners in the whole artistic process.
Okay, so we've expanded our idea of who made the art. Now let's tackle the even bigger question, why? What was art even for in the Middle Ages?
You see, the Lindisfarne Gospels weren't meant to be casually read in a library. This was a sacred object, a ceremonial treasure. It was made to honor God and a beloved local saint named Cuthbert. Its dazzling pages were meant to be seen in the flickering candlelight of a church service to symbolize the absolute splendor and mystery of God's Word.
And this gets to a fundamental difference in philosophy. We often judge old art by our modern standards. Like, is it realistic or is the perspective right? But the medieval artist wasn't trying to create a perfect snapshot of the world. Their whole goal was to use symbols and idealized forms to point you towards something bigger, a higher spiritual reality, the truth that lies behind our everyday world.
I love this quote from the scholar Gervais Matthew. Talking about this kind of art, he said, "It seems we're not representations but reenactments." Just think about that for a second. The art wasn't just a picture of a holy person. It was a tool designed to make that holy person's presence actually felt right there in the room with you.
So at the end of the day, we have to see this art not as some flawed attempt at being realistic, but as a stunningly successful attempt at doing something else entirely. It's a window. It's designed to help you look through the material world and get a glimpse of the divine.
Now, creating these incredible windows to the divine wasn't exactly easy. This art was made and had to survive in a world that was often full of crisis. And you know what? Those crises profoundly shaped the art itself. The world around this art was anything but stable. Sure, the Gospels were created in a pretty peaceful moment, but that peace was not going to last. About 150 years later, Viking raiders attacked Lindisfarne, and the monks had to flee, carrying their precious book with them. Then, centuries after that, an even bigger catastrophe hit Europe, the Black Death, a plague that would wipe out a huge chunk of the population.
I mean, how does a society even begin to cope with something like that? For many, art became this absolutely vital tool. It was a way to collectively process the overwhelming trauma, the fear, and the grief that the plague just unleashed on everyone.
One of the most powerful artistic themes to come out of this period was something called the Danse Macabre, or the Dance of Death. And once you know what it is, you start seeing it everywhere in late medieval art. It's skeletons, dancing away with everyone from popes and kings to merchants and peasants. The message was pretty grim, but it was crystal clear. The plague doesn't care who you are. Death is the great equalizer.
And this contrast here, it really says it all. On the left, you've got art from the era of the Gospels. It's intricate, it's colorful, it's just bursting with life. It's a celebration of God's complex creation. And then on the right, the art from the plague years. It becomes stark, direct, and focused on the terrifying reality that life could just end, suddenly, without any warning. Art really was a mirror for the hopes and the fears of its time.
So, after peeling back all these different layers, what's the big takeaway here? How should we look at medieval art now, with all this new context?
All right, let's just quickly recap what we figured out. We've seen that this art was not primitive at all. It was incredibly sophisticated. Its goal wasn't realism, it was spiritual. We learned that the makers were this whole team of artists and patrons working together. And we've seen that art was this powerful tool for both devotion and for processing trauma. It's a rich, symbolic language, and honestly, we've just scratched the surface of learning its grammar.
And that brings us right back to where we started. But now, when we look at this page from the Lindisfarne Gospels, we can see so much more, right? It's not just a pretty, ancient book. It's a testament to incredible artistic skill, a profound act of faith, a collaboration between an artist and their whole community, and a survivor of a dangerous and uncertain world.
And all of this leaves us with one last thought. The next time you're in a museum and you walk past a medieval painting or sculpture, just stop for a second. Don't just ask yourself, is it realistic? Instead, ask, what was this for? What bigger reality was this artist trying to show me? Because when you start to understand its purpose, it doesn't just change how you see that one piece of art, it changes how you see their entire world.